Okay, here we go. Quad tutorial number 7. Okay, once again, we're looking at a quadratic, and it's a trinomial quadratic. We're always, before we do anything, going to look to see if we can factor out a GCF, and we can't, right? There's nothing in common with these three terms that we can factor out. But we know that when we see a trinomial, we're going to set up our two parentheses. We got really good at that. With the last tutorial and the last practice. So here's, if you haven't noticed, here's something that's going to make this process a little trickier. This minus sign right here. Okay? So when we think about our two numbers, we have to think about two numbers that multiply to give us a negative 18, and those same two numbers have to add up to give us a positive 7. So there's a lot of things that we could do, right? We could think about 3 and 6. How about 3 times 6? And we could make either one of those negative, but we know no matter what, if I made the 3 negative, right, that would work for the multiplication, but negative 3 plus 6, that's not going to give me 7. And you know what? I could go ahead and make the 6 negative, and that would work. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18, but gosh darn it, 3 plus negative 6 is not going to give me 7. So while I'm fooling around with this stuff, you guys are probably going, we know what it is. All right, probably going to involve 2 and 9, right? So 2 and 9. Now the big question is, who should be negative? If I make the 9 negative, 2 times negative 9 is going to be negative 18, but gosh darn it, 2 plus negative 9 is going to give me a negative 7, and I don't want that, right? So that means that I need to make the 2 negative. So negative 2 times 9 is negative 18, and negative 2 plus 9, right, gives me what I want, which is 7. Does it matter if I do my plus 9 first or my minus 2 first? It doesn't matter what order you put it in. Now that the tough part's gone, right? Because something times itself is giving me x squared. It's going to give me an x and an x. Okay, so before we go on to finish solving it, because we can solve it, we can solve it with one eye closed at least. But here's the deal. When I see that all of a sudden they give my last term, they put a negative in front of it, that means my last term is negative, I know that one of my numbers will end up being negative and one of them will end up being positive. That's guaranteed because two numbers multiplied together that equal a negative number, one of them has to be negative. But then there's another clue that they give me. See how that my middle term is positive? That means as I'm deciding which number should be negative and which number should be positive, I'm going to look at that middle number. And if that middle number is a plus, that tells me my bigger number, right? 9 is bigger than 2. That needs to be positive. That needs to be the plus. That made sense to you? That's great. If not, just go ahead and do your work on the right side until you get it right. But now we're going to use the multiplicative property of 0, right? And we're going to say either x minus 2 equals 0 or x plus 9 equals 0. We're going to solve, and we're going to get x equals 2 or x equals negative 9. All right, you know you should have a marker board marker and wipe and a calculator in front of you. If these take you longer to do, that's cool. I really do want to stress that your intellect and your processing speed are two separate independent things about your brain. You could have the highest intellect, you could be the smartest person around, but your brain likes to process things slower, then that's what you do. And so please know that some people take longer to find the numbers that work, and that's okay. The whole goal is for you to get it right. So let's look at the marker board one. Pause it, do your work on your marker board, come back, and check your answer. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you've had time to think, and let's see, is it positive 7 and negative 2? Is that what you guys have? That is correct. 7 times negative 2 gives us our negative 14, and 7 plus negative 2 gives me my positive 5. So now it's in factored form. I can go ahead and use the multiplicative property of 0 and set these both equal to 0. And we can get our two answers. And we get x is equal to 7, or x is equal to 2. All right, and this next one, we're going to see the same thing. We've got a negative here and a positive here. All right, well, let's do this. We got to think of two numbers that when multiplied together give me a negative 10. And those same two numbers, when added together, give me a 3. Now, I'm going to use the clues that they gave me. Of course, when I have a minus sign here, to get two numbers that equal their product, when they multiply them, equal a negative number, one of them has to be negative. But this is the clue. This plus right here tells me that whichever number is the bigger number, that's the one that has to be positive. So of course we're thinking about 2 and 5, right? But 2 times 5 equals positive 10. We want it to equal negative 10. We want our bigger number to be positive. So that means our smaller number, 2, is the one that's negative. Does that make sense? Negative 2 times 5 does give me negative 10. But most importantly, negative 2 plus 5 gives me a positive 3. So don't worry, you're going to have plenty of practice with this in your packet. And now, of course, we do the same thing. We have it in factored form. We shouldn't get bored of factored form because we love factored form. It makes it easy to find the answer. And there we have it. We have those two answers. Let's see if I gave you another marker board to practice. I sure did. Go ahead and pause this. Do this on your marker board and check back in. All right, and we're back. Two numbers that multiply to equal negative 15 and add to equal 2. Okay, oh yeah, 5 and 3. I don't know why, I was just kind of blanking, like, what? Okay, the 5 has to be positive, right? Because this is a positive here. 5 times negative 3 gives me my negative 15, and positive 5 plus negative 3 gives me a positive 2. All right, I drew a blank there for a second, a little scared. It's like, are we going to be able to factor these? And we are. So we get to our answers. X equals negative 5 and x equals 3. And you have fun with your practice. I will see you. Oh, man. I was quick to try to end this tutorial. We have a number 3, Miss Overby. All right, so I did want you to see this, right? Because here we've got the trinomial, we've got the minus here, but we don't have a plus here, we have a minus. So we're going to be, of course, because it's a trinomial, we're going to set up our two parentheses. We're going to think of two numbers that multiply together to equal negative 10. And those same two numbers have to add up to equal negative 3. Okay, so here's the deal. We are still thinking 5 and 2, right? I think we used 5 and 2 when we had a plus before. So when we're doing the 5 and 2, it doesn't matter for the multiplication. It will work if the 5 is negative or if the 2 is negative. It'll work both ways. But it won't work both ways for the addition problem. So see how we see a minus here? That's our clue, just like it was last time when there was a plus here. That means that the bigger number needs to be a negative, okay, not the smaller number. And why is that? When we make the bigger number negative, that means when we add them, we're guaranteed that our sum is going to be negative. So does it matter if I put a negative 5 first or positive 2? It doesn't. And then, of course, we know we have x and x. We have it in factored form. Hooray. We set them both equal to 0. And we solve. We get x is equal to 5. And x is equal to negative 2. This is the first time, right? We got a positive and a negative answer. All right, let's see if I gave you a marker board one for this. I certainly did. All right, pause, come back, check your answer. All right, here we go. Two numbers that multiply to equal negative 12, but add up to negative 4. That's going to be negative 6 and positive 2. Did you guys get those? Right? Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. Yay, it's in factored form, so I can use a multiplicative property of 0. Isn't it kind of fun to say multiplicative? It's a cool word. And here we go. We get our two answers, 6 and -2. And I believe we are now done with the tutorials. Oh no, not all of them. You know, I should look at my sheet before I do these tutorials, right? And then I won't be surprised. Is this the last one? Let's see. Yes, that's the last one. So let's keep going. We're going to do the same thing. We're looking for two numbers that when multiplied together equal -20. But when added together, give me a -8. Once again, I know to multiply two numbers to end up with a negative, I have to have a positive and a negative. I'm thinking about 10 and 2. You know, 4 and 5, that's not going to do me, that's not going to work. But 10 and 2 will work. Who needs to be negative here? That's right. The bigger one needs to be negative so that when we add the two numbers together, we end up with a negative answer. So I'm going to put my negative there, my positive there. I could have put my +2 first, right? Doesn't matter. But yay, we have it in factored form. Use the multiplicative property of 0, which says if something times something equals 0, then you can set both of them equal to 0 because either x could equal 10 or x could equal -2. Both work. We could take the time to plug 10 into the original equation and it would work, or -2 in the original equation and it would work. Woohoo! Let's do the marker board. I'm especially flying through this one, I think because I've done about 4 tutorials in a row. Probably need to take a break. If you need to pause it and slow me down, do so. All right, let's switch over to the marker board, and I need you to go ahead and try this on your own. Please pause it and then come back. Okay, here we are. We're back. Two numbers that when multiplied together equal -30 and add up to -7. This one was tough, right? Because there's a lot of factors that work for 30. We could have picked 2 and 15, or 3 and 10, or 5 and 6. Are there any more? So when we look at these, the one that really stands out, right, would be the 3 and the 10. And we want the 10 to be negative and the 3 to be positive because -10 times 3 is -30. -10 plus 3 is -7. Woo woo, the hard work is over. We have it in factored form. We're going to set each of the factors equal to 0. And we get x equals 10 and x equals -3. All right. Let's see what tutorial. Sometimes I get lost on what tutorial I'm at. That must have been quad tutorial number 7. Thanks for joining me. I'm excited about the wonderful quadratic solvers you guys are becoming. So I will see you the next tutorial. Thanks for joining me.